What if you could buy a property for 20 cents on the dollar and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar? What? I could buy it for 20 cents, sell it for 50 cents?
Hey, thanks for joining us. And if you are, that means you're probably a beginner in tax lien investing and you're looking for some information about, how do I do this right? Well, you're at the right place because this is the right guy. This is Ted Thomas. And Ted, you have had 30 plus years in real estate and investing, and you've pretty much done it all. And I know you can let folks know about tax lien investing for beginners and how to get started. But let me ask you this, just to get started with you, Ted. How did you get into that? Like, why are you focusing on this area of real estate investment?
Okay, well, I'll make that story rather short, but it was very simple. My first career was as an airline pilot. So I flew for the airlines. And then when I finished flying for the airlines, I got involved in defaulted real estate from a foreclosure standpoint. In other words, the banks were having trouble with people not making payments. So I actually devised a system where I could write letters to people and say, look, you're in foreclosure. I'd love to buy your house. I had a little money to do that. Then I would buy the house and then I would resell it. And then as part of that business, I started learning about other parts of defaulted real estate, which is massive across the United States. And the other part I learned about was tax defaulted property. And when I found out about that, I can assure you, when I found out they were selling properties for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar, or you could go buy tax liens and earn a passive income of 18%, 24%, and even 36% on each certificate, I said, wow, this is a whole different business. So I never looked back. I actually got out of the foreclosure business. I actually trademarked the name Mr. Foreclosure and wrote books on it in the 80s. And I sold those books nationwide and worldwide on how to do foreclosures and do it with direct mail, of all things. So short story.
Wow. Well, so been doing this a long time. Now, let's go back a bit because you're throwing out some stuff that I'm not really familiar with. And so what is a tax lien? And could you explain what that is, first of all, really in real simple terms?
All right. So first of all, a tax lien certificate is nothing more than the government has gone through a process where the legislature of the state and all states has said everybody that owns property must pay the tax. All right. If they don't pay the tax, the local government, the enforcement arm of the legislature, is always the board of supervisors or the county commissioner. The county commissioners will tell the treasurer, well, look, that guy hasn't paid tax. So the county commissioner will then send a default notice and say, look, you haven't paid your tax. You have to pay your tax. So that's called a notice of default to that property owner. So they put a lien on the property. Now, if the people don't pay the lien, the government has a choice. They could either issue a tax lien certificate, which is just a piece of paper, or they could actually confiscate the property. So across the United States, half of the counties will be very benevolent and they'll sell a tax lien certificate. Now, why did I say benevolent? Because the person that's in the property doesn't get kicked off the property, but the person that buys the certificate can make a huge, generous return.
Well, how does that happen? How do they get that return then?
Okay, so what they do is the county will make a giant list. Well, I could find one here on my desk. I'll find it. Okay, so here's a giant list. So this is Tampa, Florida. Okay, now when I show you Tampa, Florida, but in the newspaper, there's thousands. I mean, really thousands. There'd be like 30,000 tax certificates available. So you could pick one and say, I want to buy that one. And then you could pay someone else's taxes. So let's say Ted hadn't paid his taxes. Randy, you could pay my taxes, and they would give you a certificate. And then you would have a certificate proving you paid my taxes. And that certificate could pay, in Ohio, it could pay up to 18%. In Florida, it's 18%. In a place like Illinois, it's 36%. So anybody can buy those certificates, and they'll be, just in Florida, there'll be 1 million certificates available every year.
Wow. Well, let me ask you a question because, any sort of investing involves some risk, and certainly in real estate. So tax lien investments, sales, what are the risks? Is it safe?
Okay, I like to say it's the safest investment in America today. So let me tell you both sides, because there's two sides to it. Okay, the safe part is you can't just invest the money anywhere. What you do with the money is you invest it directly with the county. So this means it's protected by the property tax code. So you want to make sure you don't lose your money. All right, so you invest it with the county. When the people come in and pay their tax, 95, 97% will pay. They come in and the county will call you on the phone. They'll say, send the certificate in, and we'll give you all your money back plus whatever the rate was. Now, I said, send the certificate in. They don't even do that anymore. They just send you a notice on your cell phone and say, we just deposited the money in your account. It's that fast.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the safe part. Now, here's the unsafe part. People buy tax certificates, and they don't go look and see what it is. So if you took out the newspaper, because they're always in the newspaper, if you took out the newspaper, said, I want that one, and you didn't look at it, I don't know what you bought. You don't know what you bought. What if you bought in a bad neighborhood and the people never pay their tax?
Well,
what are you going to do now?
okay, a moment ago you brought up how you can there's different amounts of interest you can earn in different states. It seems like I'd want to, I'd probably want to invest in maybe one of the states that pays more. But if I don't live in that state, how do I check out the property to make sure it's okay?
Oh, well, we're in the new age now. The new age is everything can be done on the internet. So someone could live in Portland, Oregon, and buy in Florida. For example, the state of Florida, in the month of May, will sell 1 million certificates.
Right. I just want to remind folks who are watching, we're using some questions that have been sent in specifically for Ted to answer. If you have any questions, just leave in the comment box beneath, and Ted will be sure to get back to you at some point, or, keep checking back further. But I want to ask another one. Somebody wrote in, what's the best state to buy tax lien certificates? Now, again, is the best state just the one that offers the most interest, or are the processes different in each state that make one state maybe better than the other to do your tax liens in?
The best state is whichever one you pick, because you can do it any way you want. But I would say, if I'm going to judge the best state, why don't you just try to do it in the state you live in, because you don't have to go anywhere. All right? And you don't have to buy in a neighborhood or a place that you don't know. But you can do it all online today, so you can do it in any state that you want, and depending upon the rate of return you're looking for it. So in Florida, the maximum return is 18%. The maximum return in Illinois is 36%. The maximum in Arizona is 16%. All right. So I would always say, my advice would just do what's close to you, and then you need to know the rules. So you mentioned that they need to know the rules. They definitely have to know the rules of those auctions. If you don't know, now, when you buy a tax lien certificate, it's at a bid down auction, not a bid up auction.
What do you mean?
When the bid comes out, its starting bid in Florida of 18%. The next bid is 17.5, 17, 16.5. Lowest bidder gets the tax.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand that.
Lowest bidder. Okay, now the reason it's the lowest bidder is the state and the county are trying to protect the homeowner. So the homeowner pays less and less tax as people bid it down.
Okay.
So the tax always stays the same, less and less interest all the way down.
If I invest in a tax lien and I'm paying that person's taxes, essentially, what if they don't pay off their taxes in 2 or 3 years? I mean, can I lose my money then if they never pay their tax?
There's probably very little times where you got to lose money. Now, you could lose money if you did something. You bought a property that's worthless because you didn't go look at it. That was worthless. So you bought a worthless property, the people aren't going to pay their tax. You will have paid the county, but nobody's going to pay it back. So you're going to get that worthless property. Well, you don't want a worthless property. That would be crazy. All right. So you always should look at what you're going to buy. So that's important. The rate of return is determined by the state. So every state and every county can have their own rules. So let me give you an example of that. So the state of Maryland, I think there's about 14 counties. They'll have a county called Prince George's County, but right next door is Arundel County. You say, well, who cares? Well, Arundel County only pays 12% on a tax certificate, and Prince George's pays 24%. So you don't want to buy in Arundel County at 12% when you can buy right next door at 24%. So the point is, you want to do a little homework. You don't want to just wing it. You want to do a little homework. I mean, that's why years ago, I used to take 200 or 300 people at a time to these auctions, because 30 years ago when I started, people didn't even know there was such a thing. They didn't believe it. They would go with me and they would just sit there and their mouths would open. how could this happen? But this has been, everything we're talking about is well over 200 years old.
200 years old. So Ted, the guy that owns the tax goes in and pays it. Okay. But how do I find out about that? In other words, as the investor in this, how do I get paid? How am I alerted that the money's there?
Okay, so quick review. What you did is you raised your hand, you bought a piece of paper, you now have the piece of paper. That's a tax lien certificate. All right, when the individual who defaulted pays their tax, they're not going to pay it to you. They're going to pay it directly to the county. That's what we like. They pay directly to the government. Then the government will dial up the phone and call you and say, look, you have a certificate, send it to us, and we're going to send you a check for whatever you invested, plus the interest on all that. So we know you'd like that. But in the real world, that's all speeded up now. What happens is the guy pays the bill, the county will send you a text and say, we just put that money in your account. That's how it's done. You know, so, oh, look at this, I got money today. So people go to the auction. Some people buy 10 or 20 certificates, and then every time one pays out, whoa, I got a check today. Look at that. You know, people love it.
Okay, so Ted, so I can buy a tax lien certificate, and this guy's got so much time to pay his taxes. What is the redemption period?
Okay, well, that's where you need to do some studying. The reason you have to study is each state, each county can have their own rules. Okay, so one county might say you have to redeem this certificate. In other words, you have to come in and pay within 2 years. Another one might say it's 3 years. And that'll always be on the county website. Before you buy, they'll have rules and give you all that information. So none of it's hidden. But it's usually generally between 2 and 3 years, except in redeemable deed states. We'll cover that in another video.
Hey, so Ted, this sounds like a really easy process, but what is your due diligence? What should you make sure to do before you buy and after you buy the tax lien?
Well, it's a good question because you're getting the details now, and you need the details. So number one, you look up what state you want to be involved in. Number two, you go to the county. And when you get to the county, then you're going to look up tax lien certificate. You don't want to look up just one. You want to look up numerous because someone else might buy the other one. All right, so look up numerous certificates. Now, you don't want to buy a certificate unless someone has seen it. So you want to have someone check it out, make sure there's a bad property that's burned down. So that's due diligence. You're checking to make sure the property's okay. Now, of course, if you're reading about this, you're reading it on the county website, so none of it's hidden. You'll want to find out when you pay for the certificate, when are you going to get paid back? That's usually in 2 or 3 years. All of that information is always on the county website, and it's always in any auction list you would buy.
How do you go about finding those lists? How do you find the tax delinquent properties?
Okay, the average person doesn't know that either because they don't realize there's 3,000 counties plus in the United States. So you need to know the county name. So the best way to do that is we have directories of that kind of thing to tell them where all the different counties. But once you know the county, then you can go to the county, pick that county, and then the county on their website or in the local newspaper, they will make a list of all the certificates that are available. So let's say you went to Miami. If you went to Miami, I don't have one here on my desk, but this is a newspaper that I'm holding in my hand. It would be a newspaper that thick of 65,000 certificates that are available this year. 65,000 just because it's a large population county, millions. Whereas you went to a rural county in South Dakota, there's only going to be a couple hundred.
Well, let me ask you this. So rural, that's quite a lot. So I'm looking at this list going, wow, there's a lot I could pick from. How should I start zeroing in on the property that I want to choose out of maybe those hundreds or thousands?
Yeah, well, we actually have lots of classes on that, but the first thing you would want to do is get the list. Second thing you want to do is you want to locate the property on the list. Now, if it's located in a bad neighborhood or something like that, well, you don't want to do that because if the people don't pay with a tax certificate, you see, the beauty of a tax certificate, the reason it's so safe is you invested with the government. Most people will pay, then you're going to get your money back from the government. That's a good investment. All right, but what if you invested with the government and you bought a property that the people aren't going to come in and pay for? They're going to abandon it. All right, well, then you're going to lose your money. So you always want to check the property. All right, now once you've checked the property, you know where it is. So I would say always do a country club property because if you didn't get paid, you'd get a country club property.
What do you mean by that? No, what do you mean a country club property?
I would say go to the country club, find someone that didn't pay the taxes, right? Pay the taxes because if they don't pay, you're going to get the property.
That's really sad.
I don't make the rules. That's the rule.
Great reason to join a country club.
The rule is exactly. So I tell people, buy the best one you can buy, because if you don't get paid on the certificate, you're going to get the property. You get it? All right. So with that said, you don't want to go buy cheapo property. You want to buy the best property you can buy when you buy tax lien certificates.
What if I didn't really want the property? What if I just, I was really looking at it as an investment and I just don't want it and the guy doesn't pay and it's mine? Do I have to take it?
No, you don't have to. You could just let it sit there until it goes back to tax auction again. You don't have to take it. I would buy the best property I could buy. That's what I would tell people. Buy the best one I could buy, pay for the certificate, and then wait for the people to come in and pay. Now remember, 95, 97% of these people are going to come in and pay. It's not very often you're going to get a property. Now there's whole strategies that people work to get the property, but that's not our conversation today. Tax lien certificates, in my estimation, are the safest investment in America today if you know what you're doing. But, that's the same thing. You wouldn't go drink muddy water, right? You want to drink clean water. So you need to put some effort, cognitive effort to figure out what you're going to buy. Don't just buy anything and hope. Prayer is not a very good business strategy. You really want to think about it.
Hey, Ted, I know tax lien investing, for beginners, it could be confusing because they may be thinking of tax deed sale. Could you explain, just for folks who maybe need that distinction, what's the tax lien versus the tax deed sale?
Well, I can assure you they are confused. I have people that are clients of mine for 5 years and they're still confused. All right. So visualize a picture of the whole United States. The United States is divided up into all kinds of little counties, more than 3,000 of them. In every county, the way the county pays their bills is they collect property tax. So you live in a house. So you pay a property tax and you pay it to your county. And what your county does with that money is they pay the police, they pay the firefighters, they pay the county employees, they pay the school teachers, they pay to fix the roads. All that money comes from property tax. All right, so every county has to charge property tax. They don't have any choice. All right, now if someone doesn't pay the property tax, then the rule is that the treasurer will send them a notice and say, a default notice and say, you must pay property tax. If you don't, the county will take your property. You're going to forfeit your property to the county. Now, the county then is going to sell the property. The county doesn't want the property. They got all the property they want. They got the parks, they got the schools, they got the county buildings. They don't want your property. All right, so they're going to sell it, and that's called a tax defaulted property auction. Tax defaulted property auction. And they're going to sell that property with a starting bid of just the back taxes. They don't care if there's a mortgage. They don't care if there's a deed of trust. They're going to wipe that off the property, and they're going to sell the property, starting bid 10 or 20 cents on the dollar.
Wow. Let's turn to a question that we did get. And somebody, I know you may have touched on this already because you talked about some of the different states and the interest. But what is the interest rate in tax liens in Florida, Ted? If you just stick with Florida for a second.
Florida, in all the counties, it's 18% is the maximum rate they'll pay. But remember, when they buy a tax certificate, if there's someone else at the auction and you bid 18 and they want it, they might bid 17 and a half. If someone else wants it, they might bid 17. The next person might go to 16 and a half. They could bid it all the way down to 1% if they want.
I would imagine there's a really nice piece of property that there would be more people wanting to get it, and therefore, that the bidding might go down more. Are there strategies that you have for the right kind of property?
Okay, if you're talking about tax certificate, you're not getting the property. You're just getting a piece of paper.
That's why I'm talking. That's why I'm
running down. It's just on the piece of paper.
That's why
a tax. Let's see. When you buy a tax certificate, you have no rights to that property. You can't go bother the homeowner. You don't have any right to go on the property. You don't have any right to charge taxes or rent or anything else. When you buy a tax certificate, it's a passive investment. The reason people want tax certificates, they want to buy an interest rate. They're trying to get a high interest rate. If the banks are paying 2, 4, 6%, go to an auction and make 12 or 14 or 18%. They're trying to make an interest rate. They're not going to get the property. The only time you're going to get the property is if you go to a tax defaulted property auction One is a certificate, tax lien certificate. The other is the property.
Okay. Okay. I think I got it now. And the one you're bidding up and the one you'll bid down.
You'll always mix it up. Everybody does. Everybody does. I mean, that's one of the challenges. People don't understand what they're buying, and if you don't understand what you're buying, let's face it, you wouldn't marry your new partner if you hadn't seen it, whether you're male or female. You're not getting married unless you see him. So you need to see the property. You need to know what you're getting.
Ted, if you are investing in a property that you're not close by, who should you contact to maybe go look at the property for you and report back?
Well, first of all, I'd find the property and I'd find it online. And once I found it online, there's numerous people you could have look at a property. First of all, you could hire a real estate broker, someone that's knowledgeable, or an appraiser, and say, I'll pay you to go out and take pictures, because everybody has a camera now. So you could go take pictures with their phone, send you the pictures to make sure you knew that the property was there. Sometimes the property's a picture on the internet, but what if it burned down?
Yeah.
Or what if there was, sometimes they have bad storms in Arkansas or Oklahoma, and whoosh, a big tornado goes through and there's no house there. So you always want to take a picture of what you want. So you can hire an appraiser, you can hire a paralegal. If worst case, you can hire an Uber driver and say, drive out to this address, show me that it's the right address, take a picture, and know it's there. But I wouldn't buy anything without looking at it.
You brought up a paralegal. I'm not talking about going to look at the property, but just doing this deal. Do you need a lawyer to be looking over the tax lien? I mean, do you need a lawyer? Should you have a lawyer looking over things?
Oh, no. Now that's a good question, because this was made for the public. This is for the average guy. When this system was invented, people couldn't read and write. This has been around for 200 years, over probably 250 years. There's always been tax defaulted on property, because sometimes people go through a hard time. What if the breadwinner of the family had passed away, or they had a whole bunch of kids and they had to go on welfare? They couldn't pay the property tax, so they had to lose the property, whether it was a little farm or whether it was a house or whatever it might be, whether it was an apartment. It could be anything. And so, bad luck happens because life has storms. I mean, it isn't perfect every day. Doesn't mean you can't recover, but the point is, they're going to have tax auctions forever. There's 5,000 tax auctions every year. This has been going on for decades.
If you're a beginner in tax lien investing, what kind of money do you need to start doing this?
Well, I could tell you could buy a tax certificate for $50, but if you buy a tax certificate for $50 and it earns 18%, I mean, what have you made? I mean, so I tell people, when you get $5,000 or $10,000, you ought to start thinking about it. But people always want to know, well, can I get in for $500? Yeah, you can, but what are you going to get for $500? It's a little lot somewhere that, maybe you can put a sign on it. I mean, it's not something you want to buy. I mean, if you're an investor, you'd want to buy something that you knew it was going to appreciate in value, or if it wasn't going to appreciate in value, it was going to pay you a return. You're looking for ROI, which is return on investment. So this is really an alternative investment. It's not. There's a lot of people that watch my videos on YouTube and they say, "Wow, this is a get rich quick," because people that learn it and have done it for a number of years. I have people that make $100,000 every year buying property at the right price, and maybe they modify it, fix it up, or do whatever, and then sell it at a different price. So what if you could buy a big 4,000 square foot house and you tidied it up and fixed it up and spent money on it, put a new roof and put nice landscaping, and you sold it, you might make $100,000. So it's not that unusual. Now we're talking at a very basic level today, but this encompasses everything. I mean, I have clients that a subdivision, where you probably live in a subdivision where there's houses being built, all of a sudden we go through a bad economy, which we're starting to right now. And when that happens, they shut off the money. Everybody hears the news. The Federal Reserve raised the interest rate. Well, then suddenly all the builders, all the carpenters are out of work. What do they do with those houses? They're just left there, half built. The lots are left there. Well, I have people that just go out and buy those and then wait 3 years till the market comes back because they're an investor, and they might make a couple $100,000. So this is not a business for amateurs. You can start as an amateur, but as long as you follow some guidance and some training, you'll be okay. This is a big money business long term. I mean, I buy houses and spend 150, 160,000 is what I invest, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to sell it for 300,000 or 400,000.
You know, Ted, from what you just said, it almost sounds like that this is something that you can get into, that it doesn't matter what's going on with the economy. And correct me if I'm wrong. If the economy's up or it's down, there are different ways of investing in tax liens that make sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. Okay, first of all, if anybody's been as an adult, they know the economy goes through ups, downs. So it's going up, then it goes down. So you all put it close. Up and goes down. Up and goes down. Well, these properties we're buying in the trough because someone's already lost the property to the tax collector. The tax collector doesn't want the property, so they sell it at a low price with no trust deed and no mortgage. So now, wait a minute, I've got a big advantage because I'm buying no mortgage, no deed of trust, and I'm buying down here at low price. Well, I don't have to hold out to get top price. It'd be nice to do that, but what if I buy it here, then I sell it here to a fixer-upper guy, or people who want to renovate it, or people that are flippers? Wow, I could sell it to any of those people, or I could sell it to a handyman guy, and he goes, he puts a new roof on this year, next year he builds a garage, next year, all of a sudden he sells it for that. It's a profit business, but that's general business going on all the time. But we're always buying in that trough, because the trough is continuous. It's always there. There's a new crop of tax defaulted property every year at 5,000 auctions.
Is that part of the strategies that you're in your classes you talk about as well?
Yeah, good point. When you talk to someone that really knows what they're talking about, they instantaneously, if they know anything about finance, if you talk about tax certificates and they understand it, it really sounds sexy. Wow, I could buy a certificate from the government. I could earn 18, 24, 36%. Sounds really good, right? All right, but now if I tell you, what if you could buy a property for 20 cents on the dollar and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar? What? I could buy it for 20 cents, sell it for 50 cents? See, so it sounds sexy, but you know what the challenge is? WORK. You have to think about it and know what you're doing it. You have to do a little bit of work. Now, no business is going to be easy. Okay, I didn't say it wasn't simple. No business is going to be, it's always going to require the work. So the people that put in the work in this thing, takes them a little while to learn it. We give them classes. I have classes that go like all day on Saturday. You could do that. I have classes that they can come and spend weekends with. I have classes they can study online. We have every conceivable kind of class they want, but they're going to have to put some time in. Now, the people that get in trouble are the ones that just get the little bit of YouTube video that we're giving them now. You've got to get a little bit more depth. I think there's 600 different things that we've talked about, you know, you and I and other people on YouTube. I haven't even touched it. I've been doing this for 30 years.
So, Ted, we have a bunch of beginners in the tax lien investment watching right here. What's the first thing they should do, and what can you offer them as sort of a next step?
Well, let's make it really easy for them. What I suggest is if they look at what I'm going to talk about right now, if you can see the white circles on this map right now, what this is an auction calendar. The large population counties are going to have hundreds, even thousands of tax defaulted property or tax lien certificates. The small counties, meaning small population, they're just going to have dozens or hundreds. You can find out about both of those right below me. If you want to learn about that, find out where the tax liens are, where the tax deeds are, and how many.
Well, Ted, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us, because a lot of good information. And, you know, if you're watching this and you're a beginner in tax lien investing and you're trying to figure out what the heck to do, hopefully Ted gave you a great overview right now. And obviously you can check out his courses and classes. You're definitely, I think, going to want to, like this video, if you like this video, and definitely, subscribe to Ted's channel, because he touches on a lot of other great aspects of real estate investing with tax liens and tax deeds and great strategies. Ted, once again, thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate it.
I'm Ted Thomas. I'll see you in the next video. You see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days.